Right, okay, I'm going to do something a little bit different today. I faffed around earlier on and did a sort of practice run for this, so I'm going to have a go at it now. I've prepared the paper, which is something I rarely do. I don't know if it shows on the video, but I've put in some frisket film, masking film. You can use masking tape, but I've got that, so I might as well use it to protect 3 tree trunks. In the foreground here I've just used the side of a candle and I've just scraped some bits in there which will keep some sparkle in down there. Now, without further ado, I'm going to get started using my big extra large jet, which is a squirrel mix. I love this brush, and all I'm going to do to start with is I'm going to splodge the middle. Now that should be nice and wet in the middle. And into that I'm going to use the smaller one, and I'm going to drop in some tree colour. I'm going to mix up touch of ultramarine with a little bit of raw umber to give it a grey colour. And in the middle here I'm just going to put a rough wash. See how it doesn't touch the film stuff. I don't want this to be particularly tidy, and I'm going to take a big chunk out in the middle there. I want to give the impression that there's distant trees over the top of this ridge. So there, we've got that bit. And I can grab a piece of tissue and wet my brush. All I'm going to do is take this middle bit out. So I'm going to have a glowy sort of sun there. Right, now keep that nice and wet. Problem is I've got these quite bright lights on, and they tend to make it dry quickly. Okay, still with ultramarine. This time I'm going to put a touch of light red in it, and I'm going to do a thinnish wash across the top. And let that run down. Into that I'm going to drop some clouds. I'm going to let the paint do the work here. Let these join together in a misty sort of way. So it's a misty sort of picture that I'm trying to paint here. Now, still keeping this middle bit nice and clean. I'm going to put some fresh water in there. Lemon yellow. Touch of yellow ochre. Keep it nice and bright. Still want this wet. There's method in my madness. Now I've got that done, I'm going to use, if I can find it, typical no, that's pencil. What have I done with my 1/4 inch brush? Never mind, I'll have to use something else. I'll try using this one. Okay, now I'm going to mix raw umber into this ultramarine. I want a nice wet grey mix, and with this I'm just going to put some trees Now the effect I'm trying to get is that there's mist going across the back there. Okay, mop up this bottom line here. Okay, now I'm going to put a darker foreground in, and remember I've got that candle wax on here, and again I'm going to let the paint do the work. I'm just going to drop in some browns. Some light red. Touch of I'm not talking very much, I'm sorry, but it's because I'm working quite quickly. I should have put a little bit more candle wax on that. But you can see there where it's breaking up. Okay, now using my rigger, I'm going to put some fainter trees in there. Using the darky mix, I'll put some more ultramarine into it, touch more umber. I've got a sort of browny colour, and I'll put some thinner trees. Just using the side of the brush to get some bushy bits. Some more dark. I'm going to put some branches coming across from these trees. Whoops. Might be okay, I'll put a little bit more in there. Just while this is wet, you can play around with it to your heart's content, really. But you don't want to do too much because it will lose its freshness. Right, that'll do for now. What I'm going to do now is call that the underpainting, and I'll let it dry, have a cup of coffee and come back in a few minutes. Right, here we go again, and I cheated and used a hairdryer because I thought it might be quite nice with some of the runny bits turned into twigs. So I blew it with a hairdryer, and we've got down here, I've got some quite nice splodgy bits on the edge of these trees. Some of the blue has got in, which will probably make for rather interesting tree trunks. But what I'm going to do next is do a little bit more middle distance stuff, and I'm going to use my what I should have done while the video was off was find my brush, which I couldn't find before, and I need. Right, okay, that's my 1/2 inch squirrel, which I use a lot, and I'm going to put some slightly more defined tree trunks in front of these and behind these. So back into my manky mix there, where in fact I'll clean it up and make a new manky mix. Again, raw umber, ultramarine blue, and not quite as watery as the last one, and put a touch of light red into it. Now, because I've dried everything, I'll get hard lines here. Don't too much. Actually, I'll follow that one down. Another one going across it. Some branches. That one needs to go out at the top. Thicken that one up a little bit. When they're coming out of the mist, I want them to be a little bit more defined. Just use a dry brush, and I bashed it. I'm just gonna make some watercolours there. Some more blue into that, make it darker. Bash it. When you bash it, you get a much more broken edge to the brush. Make these random brambly marks. go. Right, now use my squirrel mop, and into this foreground I'm going to splodge some real darks. I'm going to use some light alizarin crimson, mix it with some ultramarine, make a nice glorious purple. Into that I'm going to put a touch of Payne's grey just to kill it a little bit. As the sun's coming up there, I want some shadows coming from these trees. I'll put more in afterwards because I've got a very hard edge there. Purpley bit done into here. I'm going to make some nice dark greens. I'll start off with Hooker's green. Into that I'll put some blue. Now I've got a really dark green there. A bit more blue. Tiny touch of alizarin. Makes it almost black. Now I'm not doing any painting at all, I'm just doing bits. Some more blue into it. Remember, this will all dry a lot lighter, so it won't be quite so savage. And now I've got greens, blues, I want some browny colours. So I'm going to use the light red, just use the edge of that, and where that dark brown is, dark green is, put in the light red and a touch of the umber, and I get a really rich reddy browny colour. But all these little white speckles are where I put the candle wax. The lovely thing about, or one of the lovely things about this brush is it comes to a beautiful fine paint point. Right, I think that one's gone a bit too far, so make a very watery wash through there. Once things are dry, you can paint over them quite happily, as long as you don't press too hard or leave it too long. and pick up the colour that's already there. Right, okay. Oh, something down the front there. There. Not happy about that. Right, okay. Now it's time to take the film off. There you go, one tree. Two tree. And three trees. Now there's still plenty of, there's still some colour, they're not too hard, but that bit is, I've got a lovely hard edge there and there. Now what I'm going to do next is, where's that? There it is. No it isn't. There's the little 1/2 incher. What I'm going to do now is put these trees in more or less in silhouette. So I'm going to mix a nice dark ultramarine and umber, touch of alizarin, now to try this, I'm going to drag a fairly dry brush over them. A little bit of dark, no, I'll use the mop for that, use the point of it. Now just clean damp brush, soften that. Well, that wasn't very successful. Work better by wetting. Which is what I'll do on this one. I'll use my brush fairly damp and clean, and on top of there some water, and then into the water I'll put my darky bit. That's what I was trying to do with the others. Again, put more water in. And now with the really dark, I'll put a little bit of green in that one as well. Now, okay, now I'm going to get the rigger. I'm going to thin down some of these darks. Still dark, but quite sloppy. I want to fill this rigger and see, I'm twiddling this rigger because it makes the branches grow organically, because they do. They're actually chasing after the light. And here I'm just going to flick in some more bits. Using the grain of the paper. I'm not mad keen on that bit. I'm going to do some negative paint in there and make a nice really dark and because it's difficult to put light on top of dark in watercolour, what I'm doing is putting blacks behind to make it look like a tangle. Here shadow. And that, oh, I don't like that sporbly bit there. So there, I think I'm going to call that finished. As usual, I'll leave it to one side and I might go back in later. There's something not quite right there. I don't know, the white splodges. I'll see what it looks like with the frame off. Okay, here we go. When you take in masking tape off, pull it away from your picture. That way, if it pulls off the surface of the picture, it doesn't pull off any of your painting. Too sticky. There, it's got all the edges. The reason there's so much tape on this is because I measured it out first so it will fit in a 14 by 11 mask. So there we go, that's that fallen down. Let's get a little bit of this masking tape. Use a new bit. You'll do. So there's that. Have I got a mask somewhere? Amount, that should be the right size. Not quite, it needs a slightly bigger one, but that is the general idea. I'll have to take all sorts of things apart, but there you go, that's that. It's, as I always say, it's not a wonderful masterpiece, but it gives you the idea of how to do something quite loose and make a landscape out of it quickly. Okay, thanks for watching.